This meeting is now being recorded.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the EDS Awareness Educational Series webinar. My name is John Furman. Before we introduce our speaker, we'd like to give an overview of our pre-program to those attending for the first time. So we'll discuss who we are, what is our program, some upcoming events, introduce our speaker for this evening, Tone Smith, and then have a Q&A. So again, my name is John Furman. I manage the National EDS Awareness Program based in Cincinnati, Ohio. My daughter, Deanna, who's also on the call, leads the Cleveland, Ohio EDS support group. She was diagnosed with EDS in 2008, the same year my wife passed away with breast cancer. I was a caregiver for my wife who struggled with undiagnosed EDS for over 30 years. So we introduced our program at the 2012 EDNF conference to help EDSers form independent local support groups and spread EDS awareness in their local communities. We've started over 85 groups to date. Each group is given their own free website with a link from the directory and map. We receive feedback that conferences provide valuable information and social opportunities that many cannot afford physically or financially to attend in person. So we decided to bring the speakers to you through the free EDS Awareness Educational Series. We meet every first and third Tuesday, typically at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All the programs are free. The meeting announcements and, when possible, the webinar recordings will be posted on our website at edsawareness.com for later replay. You can receive email announcements for future sessions by requesting the free report on our site. Tonight's presentation is sponsored by Body Support Store, where you'll find over 250 products selected by EDSers for EDSers. The store is the only funding for this program and usually covers our monthly fees. Please visit our store and check out the helpful products that we sell. Just a general disclaimer. This presentation contains general information about EDS. Members of the EDS community voluntarily participate in this program. The information is not advice. If you're having medical problems now, please call 911. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your treatment. Now, we recognize that the topic this evening could be considered controversial since many states have not legalized marijuana. Although we are not advocating the use of medical marijuana, we feel that this information is very important for you to make informed decisions in the future.
And wanted to let you know the next webinar is going to be August 20th. Dr. Mitzi Murray, who is a geneticist working with Dr. Peter Byers at the University of Washington, will present genetic testing in EDS for the patients. And I wanted to let the live attendees know tonight there's going to be an opportunity for Q&A after the presentation. Add your questions at any time during the presentation by clicking the Q&A icon at the top of your screen. After typing your question, click the orange button to submit. Our presenter tonight is Ellen Lenox-Smith, and she will be talking about living life again with dignity using medical marijuana. Ellen is a leading voice for patients living in pain in her state of Rhode Island and across the country, and she's enjoyed a long and distinguished career predominantly in the field of education. Ellen is an EDS patient and also has sarcoidosis, and she presently has endured 22 surgeries, and we ask for your prayers this month as she will have a neck fusion later this month in October. And she's been featured in local and national press, and she brings a compassionate perspective to the need for safe patient access to medicine in a timely and accurate care. And she has been featured in such places as the New York Times, NPR Radio, the Washington Post, Pain Pathways, and Arthritis Today magazines. She's also presented at the EDNF conferences in 2013 and in 2015. And recently she's been asked to present, recently she has been asked to I apologize, my screen went blank. I didn't read that. I'm so sorry. Okay, and back up for Pain News Network. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to present Ellen Smith, and I'm going to go ahead and turn over the microphone to you now, Ellen. Thank you.
Okay. As I welcome you on, thank you so much on an evening. I know what it's like with Ehlers-Danlos. This is the time of day that tends to be the toughest for us with discomfort. So I really appreciate the number of you that are sitting here and listening to this. Again, my name is Ellen Lennox Smith. I originally grew up in New Jersey and moved to Rhode Island, got married, and have lived here ever since. We're going to be following an overview and presentation that I did just recently at the EDNF conference, and then I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. The things we're going to be following is I'm going to be sharing an inspirational letter from a parent that I received, describe to you why I personally turned to medical marijuana, the different methods that you can use to actually take it, discuss briefly about DNA drug sensitivity testing and also food sensitivity testing, a little bit about society's stigma, and also leave you with some resources to be able to use in case you decide that this might be something you want to try. So I'd like to start with a letter I received. Back in 2013, I spoke for the first time at the EDNF conference that happened to be right here in our state of Rhode Island. Rhode Island's been a legal state for medical marijuana since 2006. By 2007, in desperation, I turned to it after being suggested by a doctor that I give this a try, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute, why I turned to it and what happened with it. But I'd like to start with this letter that I received because I think it might help to open your minds a little bit if you're somebody that's never tried this and you're trying to decide if it's worth it. This is written by a woman named Freda Hallford, and it reads as follows. Ellen, you probably don't remember me, but I requested info from you regarding medical marijuana in 2013. This was on behalf of my daughter who suffers from EDS. It's not legal in our state, so it wasn't an option. She had been on Opana for a year, and her pain relief was minimal. Last year, she told me her life was unbearable and that she wanted to die. I know suicide rates are high with EDS, so I took that statement seriously. I told her I felt it was time for a vacation to Denver. She said, Mom, I'm so sick, I don't think I can make it. I told her I didn't care how sick she was, that we were going to go. I would drive and she could lie in the back of the rental van if she had to. She's 42, past the age of me making her do anything, but I felt I had to do something. I promised her if it didn't work, I would leave her alone and let her make her choice. After all, it was her life, not mine, and I needed for her to at least try this one last thing. Ellen, her relief was amazing. She had been mobile, mostly by Jazzy for a while. We stopped by a park in Missouri on the way home, and she actually walked a mile. Life is so sweet again. She had suffered from nausea almost constantly. The nausea would have made her non-functional, even if the pain hadn't. She was better immediately, and the sickness was gone in days. We are now planning to move out of state so she can have access. We are waiting and hoping Tennessee will approve medical marijuana, but that didn't happen. The reason for my note today is to thank you. I have followed you on the computer, and your articles gave me hope that there was a chance for her to have a better life. If you had not responded to my questions and your articles had not inspired me, things might not be the way they are today for her. She has been out with her friends twice in the past week, and as I said, life is sweet again. No, she's not cured. but she can smile again. I really, really missed that smile. Thank you, Ellen. And I just think that letter from Freda is a wonderful way to introduce you to thinking about considering with Ehlers-Danlos the use of medical marijuana. We are very reactive. We're reactive to foods, we're reactive to medications, and that leads as to why it is I ended up turning to medical marijuana. From birth, I was declared a very reactive baby. My pediatrician actually said to my mother, it seemed like I was allergic to my own body. Whatever they gave me for whatever need I had, I always seemed to break out in a rash or have these odd reactions, but of course nobody had a clue what was going on. I've now endured 22 surgeries, and I didn't know what to do when I was heading out to Wisconsin from Rhode Island to have a sternoclavicular reconstruction, which is the bone up by your throat. If you touch the soft spot in the center of your throat, there's a bone on either side. That's the sternoclavicular. I was still teaching at the time, and the bone was slipping into my throat, and it was not good. And I was heading out to that surgery. At that point, I was not sleeping at all at night. I was exhausted. I was still teaching 120-plus students, and I didn't know how I was going to get through the surgery with the pain level I was already living with. And I went to my doctor and said, if the surgery does not work, I'm going to need help with pain. He said, we're not going to wait. We're going to send you to the pain clinic now, and we're not going to wait to see what happens with the surgery. So I went to this very nice doctor and sat down with him, and before he came in, his nurse came in, and she went through my chart. And it was kind of odd because she kept saying to me, well, do you have any children? And I thought, well, why is she asking me this question? What's that got to do with my pain? I said, yes, I have 4 adult sons that are out of the house. So then the doctor walks in, sweet man, Dr. Pradeep Chopra, and he says to me almost immediately, do you have any children? So now I'm laughing. I said, what do they have to do with my pain? And he said, because we looked at your chart and there's just nothing to offer you. You are reacting to everything. Would you possibly consider trying some medical marijuana and see if that could be your answer? And I sat there, and I remember laughing back at him, thinking if my parents were alive, they'd be laughing in their graves. I mean, we're all brought up to believe that we're supposed to be staying away from drugs, and here my doctor is sitting there telling me, I want you to go get some off and give it a try. So I listened to him because I didn't have anything else to turn to, and I went ahead and got a sample and spoke to my pulmonologist because I do have sarcoidosis that's in my chest, so I am not able to smoke anything or it would be fatal. So I immediately had to take the product, convert it into an oil form, which I will show you later how you do. It's very simple, and took a teaspoon of it about an hour before bed, went up to my husband and said, I just want you to know I took it because I was scared. I had tried it in college. I was the one that, one puff on a back then it was just smoking, and one puff on the cigarette, and I was literally laying in bed for the remainder of the day, going in and out of what felt like sodium pentothal. I hated it. So there was nothing exciting to me about turning to medical marijuana because all I could picture was having that kind of reaction. I was going to be bedridden and feeling horrible. So I took the teaspoon, told my husband, went to bed, and son of a gun, the next morning was there. I woke up. I had slept the entire night for the first time in absolute months. I could not believe it. At that point of my life, I did go off and have that surgery, wasn't able to use medical marijuana in Wisconsin. It's an illegal state, but as soon as I came back, I continued on with that and was sleeping, and my life started to turn around. I had lost my career at that point. I was going to have to leave teaching. I'd had enough surgeries that I was just running out of time, and it was clear that my focus was going to have to be on how to live life as safely and carefully as I could with this condition. But that's how I began. It was not something I thought of. It was something the doctor suggested to me. I am so grateful that I listened to him and I didn't poo-poo it, and I went and gave it a try because once my husband and I both saw what happened by the next morning, we knew that there was no way we could keep our mouths quiet about this, that we were in a position with me leaving my career and retiring. My husband was leaving his job at that point as a supervisor for DCYF, that we were in a position that we could speak out for other people that weren't in that position to do that. So that's how it all began. Now there's many different ways to administer cannabis. I personally take an oil at night. It's very simple. I take it an hour before I go to bed. Oil, when you ingest it, stays in your system, and you want to start extremely slowly. You do not want to jump to what your dose should be because you have to introduce it slowly to the body. So the goal is you take a dose, a smaller dose than might be typical, and mix it with a little food, take an hour before you go to bed, and about anywhere from a half hour to an hour later, it will then kick in. And it's very important that if it's an oil you're taking at night, that you're using one of the two types of plants. There's a sativa, which is a daytime plant, and that gives you pain relief and allows you to want to stay awake and function. And then an indica plant, which tends to be a more compact, bigger leaf plant, that gives you the pain relief and allows you to want to sleep. So when I say I take an oil, I'm taking oil from an indica nighttime plant. We have found through the years of working with this since 2007, and we've had many different patients that we help grow for. And legally in our state of Rhode Island, you can be a patient yourself and also be a caregiver. So I have 5 people I produce medication for and help them with their pain issues. We have found through the years that not just one plant is better. It's better to take a couple of indica plants and combine those in making your oil, because then you're going to get the benefit of more than, because each plant gives you something a little different. That seems to be very beneficial to take a combination of indica plants to create the oil. And the other thing we discovered, which is really a money-saving thing, is you do not have to use the bud to make the oil. If you look at a plant, and I believe at the end of this presentation I'll actually show you a bud. When you take a bud, initially on the plant there's what's called big fan leaves. They have a long stem and then a big leaf. Those in time come off. But around the actual bud, the flowering that's produced, there's tiny, tiny little leaves inside of that bud. And when you trim that off, those leaves are loaded with CBD and THC and all the good stuff that you're trying to get off the plant. They're loaded with it as much as the bud. So you don't want to throw the trim away. You want to put that out on a tray, dry it out, grind that up, and use that to make your oil. It's wonderful. So oil, I would highly encourage those of you that are listening that have Ehlers-Danlos to try the indica nighttime oil. And what I have found on many, many of the days of my life, I take the oil at night, and then in the morning I wake up, whether it's a good day or a bad day, I find most of those days I don't take anything else. I make it through the next day from the oil that's still sitting in my system. Now, I do not feel high from it. I don't feel, the old terminology of being stoned. You don't get that if you have a body in pain unless you take too much of it. Any of us could take too much medication, and then you will get that reaction. But as long as you level out what's the correct dose for you, you will find that you're not going to get that sensation. And by correct dose, for instance, with the oil, start small. Let's say half a teaspoon. You go to bed. Let's say you slept 5 hours. You want to sleep the whole night. So the next night you increase by a quarter of a teaspoon to that. A quarter of a teaspoon increasing until you get to the point that you've slept the night and you wake up not feeling groggy. If you're waking up and feeling groggy, then you've put too much into your body. Decrease the dose. Just go backwards a little bit, and then you'll be okay. You should not be feeling groggy when you wake up. I wake up, and my head is clear. And my brain thinking power is probably better than it was before I even started to use this. So that's one way is the oil, and I would really encourage you. I think many of you, if you can get the oil and accept it into your system, you'll find all these other ways you probably won't even need. But other choices are vaporizing. In our state of Rhode Island, although there's actually no research out there showing that smoking marijuana is going to cause cancer in your lungs, our feeling is, why take a chance? When you can vaporize, I have sarcoidosis in my lungs, which means I have enlarged granulomas and lymph nodes in there. My lungs are in trouble, but yet when I called the pulmonologist about possibly ever vaporizing, he was thrilled because it's going to look like you're blowing out smoke when you vaporize, but it really is just vapor. It's very deceiving, and it's a very safe way to also quickly get medication into you. Vaporizing daytime medication, a sativa plant, is fast-acting. So you take a hit, wait and see how it feels. If you're still getting some more pain 20 minutes later, take another hit, and you'll learn to figure out what the dose is. You might be a person that needs 2 hits, and then you wait 20 minutes or longer. But the good part about this, once you get comfortable with it, is you're going to be doctoring yourself. You're going to be listening to your body to decide how much more you need or don't need. Juicing. A couple of years ago, I went to a conference. I'd had a leg surgery. I was in a wheelchair, and we were manning the RIPAC table. RIPAC is Rhode Island Patient Advocacy Coalition, and my husband and I are both on the board for that. And we were manning a table at a conference, and it was his turn to be sitting out at the table and my turn to go listen to a speaker. So my husband pushed me in and plopped me at the first table there, and in between the speakers, this very nice gentleman was sitting next to me. We started chit-chatting, and come to find out, he introduced himself as Dr. William Courtney, a cannabis doctor. I thought, my God, there was not one doctor in Rhode Island that would ever have introduced themselves as a cannabis doctor, so this really caught my ear, and he proceeded to hand me an article that had been published about him about juicing the leaves. He's presently doing research on taking the big fan leaves that most people just throw away. He takes those, and I have what's called a Vexin juicer. You put them into the juicer, and out comes this really dark green juice from the leaf, and you take the whole stem along with the leaf and put it in. And he says about 15 leaves a day. You take the juice from that and then mix it with some other kind of juice that you like and sip it throughout the day, maybe 4 or 5 times. So I thought, well, I have nothing to lose. I just had this leg surgery. And I'd had the same surgery on the opposite leg the year before. I'd gone to Wisconsin. My fibulas were subluxing so badly that they took cadaver tendons to hold them back in place. The year before I'd had the surgery done, it took 10 months, 10 hours a day with a bone stimulator because I have severe osteoporosis to get the bone to heal. This year, after meeting Dr. Courtney, I went home, immediately got into his research and got the juicer and started juicing the leaves because I had access as a home grower. And 3 months later, got a call from Wisconsin saying I no longer needed to use my bone stimulator. My body was healed. So I went from 10 months down to 3 months, and the only thing that was different, I was juicing and drinking the leaves from the families. So it was pretty amazing. So that's another way. And when you juice and drink, you do not feel anything. I do not get any sensation at all. You're just getting the high CBD count into your body that is supposed to have wonderful healing powers. Other ways to administer medication are through pops and candies. For instance, I had a patient that traveled by train to an illegal state, was in a panic how she was going to possibly survive without her medication, traveling on this train, and asked, could I possibly learn how to make candy for her? I thought, okay, let me give it a try, and made these hard candies, and son of a gun, she came back from the trip and said she actually had gotten more pain relief from the candy than she ever had expected. So I called Dr. Chopra. I said, why was it that these candies were so successful? And what he explained was that because you put them in the side cheek or under the tongue, there's glands in there that absorb very rapidly. So it's very fast-acting, and it also stays in your system a little bit longer. So it's a very effective way for certain people. We have a state legislator that has a terrible condition in their mouth and horrible pain, pain with talking, pain with eating, and pops those candies into her cheek and is able to be, up there talking to people because it gives her the relief that's needed. So that's another one. Tincture, there's different ways of making tincture. Glycerin tincture, and I'll show you the recipes later on in this presentation. Glycerin is made in a crock pot. It takes about an hour. Glycerin is, if you're diabetic or like me, I'm not diabetic, but I have problems with cane sugar for some reason. I just can't do sugar and metabolize it. But yet glycerin tastes sweet, but it's not anything that a diabetic person would need to worry about. You don't get hypoglycemic from it at all. So that's one way. Another one is doing an alcohol-based tincture. So what I do is I take a canning jar, I fill it with either the bud or the clippings of daytime. I tend to make it for a daytime. Fill the jar up with the product, and then I take an alcohol base to pour over it. What I have found seems to be the favorite of patients. We've done every flavor out there, but what seems to be the hit is a lemon drop schnapps, believe it or not, and that's what we use. And The lemon drop schnapps seems to be very effective. You stick it into the side of the cheek or under the tongue. You hold it down for about 20 seconds, and then you swallow it. If you're in a lot of pain and you can put up with a little bit of alcohol backing there, the alcohol base is probably going to be a faster reaction and quick one for you. If alcohol is an issue, then the glycerin works really well. And it's just, again, a preference. You can also make a very, very fast tincture if you take the 190 proof and stick the product in a jar, pour that over that, it immediately starts to turn green and pull the THC and CBD out. But that is not something you would want to be tasting. You have to then slowly cook the alcohol out of that to be able to use that as a tincture. So that's a tougher one. Topical. The topical is absolutely amazing. I use my nighttime oil and to create the topical. The directions will be at the end of this presentation. The topical is basically the oil, beeswax to make it, stiffer, and we've learned to put a extract in it that is going to take the smell of the marijuana away. What seems to be the favorite, and a doctor suggested this one day because I was doing lemon, I was doing lavender, flavors that I thought would be nice, and she said, why don't you try peppermint? I thought, okay, that's weird, but I'll try it. So I tried the peppermint, and patients love it because it opens up the pores, allows faster absorption of the medication into the system. And from what we understand, the topical, when you rub that on your skin, does not show up in your blood system. Any other way we're talking about is going to show up and shows up in your system for quite a long time. Topical does not. We've even had patients at this house that have RSV on their head that have literally gone home, shaved their hair off because it was so effective to rub the topical on their head. We're talking somebody that couldn't even put a comb or brush into their hair because the pain was so horrible. But yet this topical was bringing this pain level down. So it's pretty amazing stuff. There's edibles. There's smoking. Edibles for EDS, be careful. We tend to be food reactive. If you don't know what your food allergies are and somebody hands you a cookie, you might be reacting in a way maybe more from the food item as opposed to the medical marijuana that's in it, and you're not really sure. The other problem with an edible, as with the oil, it's not going to kick in right away. Fast acting is vaporizing, smoking, having the candy, doing the tincture. But if you're doing an edible, it's being ingested like the oil. It's going to go into your system, and it's going to take a while to kick in. So what happens, innocently, people will take a bite of the cookie, and they'll sit back and say, oh, I don't feel anything. So they eat some more of the cookie. And then the next thing you know, they've eaten the whole cookie. And then next thing you know, an hour or so later, they're quote-unquote stoned because they had put so much medication in their body that they had no idea what they were doing. So be very careful with edible. If you do it, make sure you understand how much your body is able to metabolize before you stick all that into your mouth. And smoking, again, there's nothing wrong with smoking. For some people in this state, that's the only way they can get medication in. If you can successfully vaporize, why take a chance in your lungs? Even though there's no research out there, it would be safer to go with vaporizing. And by the way, I have a vaporizer that I just love in case anybody wants to write it down. It's called PAX, P-A-X. It's about the size of a good-sized pen. It fits into my pocketbook. Incredibly simple to use. Press a button, the mouthpiece pops up, the light comes on. It's an X. It's red until it flashes green. It takes about maybe a minute or two to heat up, and then it's ready. When you're done, press the button down, and that's it. Store it back in your pocketbook or in your glove compartment. It's really, really simple to use. So that's pretty much the different ways to administer. And what I've included here, this presentation was what we used at the EDNF conference, and I didn't want people to go home empty-handed. So what we have here is directions of how to make the oil. And I don't want to insult you by reading every detail here, but I just want to share with you it is so easy. There's two choices here. You can make it on the top of your stove. There's also a new item called Magical Butter Machine that you can order right on Amazon. That's fantastic. But if you're just going to do it on the top of your stove, it's basically 10 tablespoons of ground up product, and I use a simple coffee grinder to do this. 10 tablespoons to 1 cup of oil. Now, I use olive oil. You can use coconut oil. You can use oil of your choice. You're going to heat up the oil. You're going to take some of that product, sprinkle it over the top, and when you start to hear sizzling sound, it's like the sound you hear when you put an Alka-Seltzer in a glass of water and starts making that sound. That's the release of the THC and the CBD into the oil. So once you hear that sound starting, turn the heat off, take it off the pan, and put all the product in, stir it around, and just let it sizzle away and cool down, strain it, and that's it. You're done. It's incredibly simple. So the directions are all here, and I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has it. Notice down at the bottom here, it says I started with a half a teaspoon and now up to 1 teaspoon per evening. I'm 5'2" and about 98 pounds. Again, you want to start slowly, increase slowly. Again, good night's sleep, not waking up groggy, then stop at that dose. You're where you're going to want to be. If you're still not getting enough sleep, just keep increasing. You get groggy, just cut it back a little bit. Okay, but a very pleasant presentation. And also remember, it must be made with evening plant. That would be an indica plant. Okay, moving on. Advantages of using it this way: it's safer for your lungs than smoking, and easy to store and travel with. I have put it in a medicine bottle. I've vacuum sealed the package, put it in my check-in suitcase, and traveled the country with my oil. I keep it in my container with other medications. No one really is interested in your oil. They're interested in product. I've never, ever traveled with product and never will. I would never take that chance. But oil, I have felt I was a little scared the first time I ever traveled with it, but I've realized it's been absolutely fine and safe. Juicing the leaves, you start with 10 leaves of the large families, as again with the stem on it. Just clean them off. We always grow our plants organically. Make sure if you get them from somebody else that you clean them off and get them ready. And I put the name of the juicer that I love. I've been through a couple of different types. This one's very sturdy and has really lasted. And I happen to drink Mona V too, so I mix mine with a little Mona V and sip that. You want to put some kind of juice in there to take. If you just drank it green the way it is, chances are good you're not going to like that too much. So you might want to mix it with something, and you can't go wrong. It's incredibly helpful for your body, loaded with CBDs and healing powers. Candies is another way you can do this. Here's the recipe, how to make candies. Don't do what I do and burn yourself. Be really careful. It's kind of a messy thing until you get the hang of it. So, just get everything out and ready, and try not to get distracted because it happens really fast. When you get up, you have to wait a while for it to get to a certain temperature, and I believe that's going to be in here 300 degrees, and then you start pouring it. And it gets a little gooey when you start pouring it in. So, decide what do you want, little small candies? Do you want to make into pops? Just decide what it is you're going to be putting this into, and do not forget to spray it so it will not stick. One time I made this big batch of candies, and I'd forgotten to spray, and I couldn't get one of them out. So don't make my mistake. Learn from my mistake. Tincture. This is making it the alcohol method. You put the product into the jar. You pour the schnapps or alcohol of choice over that. You can make it with rum. You can make it with anything you want. And then this way is slow. It takes 2 months. Every day you go, take that jar, just give it a little shake in the morning or the night, whatever, and after 2 months, all you do is pour it out, put it in a strainer. You can literally squeeze almost every drop of that out, and it's just store it in a jar away from the sun and the light, and you're good to go. So that's one of the ways to make a tincture. 24-hour method would be the 190 proof. You put the medicine in, pour the 190 proof over that. You can put it into the freezer for the night if you wish. That is very intense. And, again, you're going to then have to put that into an open crock pot with windows wide open and then cook that down because you have to get that 190 proof out of there a little bit or it's going to be too intense to use. but that's a really fast way. And then the other way is the glycerin tincture, and that could be made in 2 hours in the crock pot. Very simple thing to do, easy to store. You can make it sativa as a day relief or indica plants for a night relief. Again, you can use ground up of the bud or of the trim around it, either way, and you'll achieve the same thing. And just showing you when you use this medication, you're going to take a teaspoon of it, and you put it either under your tongue or the side of the cheeks, hold it for about 20 seconds, and then swallow it down. And then every 20 to 30 minutes, if you feel like the pain level's coming back, it's not quite getting it, you can keep taking more. It's not going to hurt you. And you will be doctoring yourself as to when you need to administer more. And this I love. This is the Topical. It's unbelievably helpful stuff. It's the same oil that I use for making at night, added with beeswax. This particular recipe is including the blue emu. I've actually gotten, so I even leave that out now because I ran out of it, and it still comes out fine without it. So it's not something you have to include, but I would encourage that you add an essential oil in there to take the smell of the marijuana away. We have found that the peppermint is the most successful. People that come over and I say, here, what do you think of this? Unscrew the top and say, what's it smell like to you? All they say is peppermint. They do not smell marijuana at all. This stuff's wonderful. It lasts forever. One little container of that lasts a very long time. Just be careful when you rub this on your body. It has oil in it. So if you put a brand new outfit on after you've put this on, you're going to stain it. So just remember to put something older on, or after it's absorbed in, wipe the oil off so you don't break your clothing. But this stuff's wonderful for many, many different conditions. This is just how to make the oil if you didn't have oil already made to create that. And that's just a continuation of that. Okay. About maybe 4 years ago, I received a call a couple of weeks before going up to Wisconsin for another surgery from my surgeon up in Wisconsin saying he just did not know what to do with me. The hospital didn't know what to do with me because I just was not a person that didn't know how to help with pain when I'm in the hospital because I'm not able to use medical marijuana in an illegal state in their hospital. So he asked if I would have a DNA drug sensitivity testing. And it was really, and I put the information here for you. I did not pay a penny for this test. I called this number. They sent it to me. What they said to me at this time, and I don't know where they stand today, what they said to me about 4 years ago is that if I received a bill and insurance did not cover it, they would send the bill to me once, and that would be it. And they would never ask me again. And in other words, it was up to me whether I felt I could afford to pay. I actually never even got the bill. My insurance covered it. And the results were just unbelievable. And I'm guessing many of you with EDS will probably get the same results. It basically said that I could not take an aspirin, I could not metabolize Tylenol, could not metabolize Benadryl, any of the opiates, and the list went on and on and on. It was really, it really actually, just like when we finally get diagnosed with a real condition after being told we were kind of crazy, it was kind of that sensation that I was real, that all these reactions I felt I was living through were real, and that I finally had the data to confirm it. But the problem was there were only two things on the list that showed I would be able to metabolize for pain. One was to be medical marijuana, of which I'm missing an enzyme for, but not an enzyme that was going to affect too badly, and the other one was ketamine. About a year and a half ago when I spoke to the FDA, I was asked by the Pain Foundation to share what I used for pain. They wanted it to go on record, and I was kind of shocked they wanted me to share. And I said to the FDA, I said, the only two things that I can use are both controversial, but these are the two things that keep me alive. And, it's very good to get this information for yourself. Now when I go, for instance, when I'm going to be having the surgery, I have the contact number. They have my DNA testing. If there's a need to put me on any type of new medication, then I'm able to have them put that data into my makeup and the information they have about me, and they'll be able to say, yes, she can take this, no, this is what she can metabolize instead. So it's going to eliminate a lot of these reactions that you spend your life having to live with if you can get this testing done. I would highly, highly encourage you to do this. And along with that, which I did not have in the notes, is you really should also think about the fact that along with drugs, if we're taking medication that our body does not like, it causes inflammation. If we eat food our body cannot metabolize, it causes inflammation. What does inflammation do with Ehlers-Danlos? It causes you to sublux even more and feel even yuckier. So it's really good to get the DNA testing done so you start staying away from those items that you're not supposed to be having in your personal body. And also with food, I think you will be shocked to find out what it is you're putting in your body that could be causing some of the triggers of why you're subluxing worse on one day than another day. So there are a couple of good tests out there that you can be done. I have one here, let's see, one is called ALCAT, A-L-C-A-T. I've had done, and there's also MRT, food sensitivity testing. It's extremely helpful to get that done. Identify those triggers. It's a pain in the butt, but this condition's already a pain in the butt. But if there's a way to help have some control back in your life, this is one way you can do it. Identify those triggers and help yourself with the inflammation and the subluxations. Society's stigma. Is it there? Well, unfortunately, we still have issues going on. Reaction of family and friends. Some of you are going to have people that are going to be very supportive of this if you decide to try it. Some people are going to think you're crazy, but there's a point in your life you have to do what's good for you and what's going to help you have some quality of your life and dignity back. For me, that's turned my life around, and as my family has seen what it's done for me, they have become believers, and they have gone out and helped to advocate too, because they've seen the change in my life. And I believe that, like what we're doing tonight, educating each other, sharing how this is working is half the battle. It's not exactly people's fault in society right now in our country. When they hear medical marijuana and they get turned off, that's because we've been brought up that way. We've been brought up to think it's a dirty, inappropriate thing. But that's changing pretty rapidly. There's a lot of states that are working towards trying to make this legal. A lot of people, particularly over children with seizures, my heavens, it's just been opening up a can of worms lately. States that were going to have nothing to do with legalizing suddenly are turning around and letting kids be able to have access to this so they don't have to deal with seizures, which is pretty amazing. So, again, education, it's nice that the kids are getting their help, but we deserve it too as adults. So we have to keep fighting and educating and telling our stories, because if people can hear what it does for us and they can see that you're an everyday person that's trying to live life and trying to live a good life and make a difference in life, people will listen to you. So it's very important to get involved and share your story. Advocating for other states, here's what Rhode Island did, because we have been considered rare with Ehlers-Danlos, although they're in the very near future no longer going to call us rare. One doctor recently wrote that he thought it's going to be 5% of the population and more prevalent than MS if you have Ehlers-Danlos. So that's pretty dramatic. But until we can get enough people recognizing Ehlers-Danlos as a serious, real condition, you need the wording in your legislation that will allow you to be part of the program. So we have the typical debilitating medical conditions. Most states go for the real obvious: cancer, glaucoma, HIV, next slide, hepatitis C, and so on, wasting syndrome. But then what Rhode Island added was here: chronic or debilitating disease or medical condition or its treatment that produces one or more of the following: the wasting syndrome, chronic pain. This is right here what you want to make sure that you use and get into your legislation. Severe, debilitating, chronic pain, we will fit right into that. And that will be the wording that you want to make sure you fight for your state if you're living in a state that's still not there and it's not too late to help with legislation. If you're in a state that you have Ehlers-Danlos but you don't qualify, then you need to try to work and and try to get that wording in there, or even try to get Ehlers-Danlos listed as a real condition. There's one state, Illinois, that was, I believe, going to be the first state in the country that actually has Ehlers-Danlos listed as a qualifying condition. We also would go for some under severe nausea. So there's many different things that can be done here, but probably the most important is getting in there about chronic pain. Cystitis is still there, continuing. Yes, it's less invasive. There is no organ damage. There are no deaths related at all to Ehlers-Danlos. No one dies from this. No one gets organ damage. It is as safe as it can be. We've been led to believe that it's a dirty word and we should not be using it and we're bad people. That's not the case. The change we see in people's lives that start to use medical marijuana for whatever physical problem they're dealing with, it's like night and day, and people are so grateful to just be able to take the edge off. And you need to understand that it's not like taking an opiate. An opiate is pretty intense and pretty heavy sensation. Marijuana, sometimes we had a patient come out here one time who was paralyzed from the arms down, and he was sitting a driver had brought him into the driveway, and we brought out the vaporizer for him to try. He was a brand new patient. He's since passed, but he tried vaporizing, and we really could barely understand him. And we said, well, are you noticing anything? He said, no. And then next thing you know, he starts smiling, he starts telling us these stories, and he didn't even realize in himself at first the changes that were already happening. It just takes that raw edge away is what was happening, and in time he suddenly did realize it, and he vaporized throughout the day until the day he died, and he used to call up, and I went from having phone calls from him where I could not understand a word he was saying to suddenly, hey, how you doing, just checking in. He was like a new person, and it was just taking that raw edge off of his life. So I did mark on here the two types of food sensitivity testings, the ALCOT and the MRT, that I would encourage you to consider, or I'm sure your dietitian has another one that's just as good, something to help identify the triggers for your personal body, because we are all so different. For me, it happens to be dairy and soy and gluten and nightshade vegetables, blah, 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 and you go to a restaurant and you don't know where to begin. You guys might be fine on those. Everybody is different, but it's nice to identify what those triggers are. Okay, this is a picture of a clipping that was taken off one of our plants, and you'll notice to the bottom right a little root that's just starting. It takes about 2 weeks in our rooter to get these roots. Now, what we do, instead of starting with seeds, which you can buy seeds, we take from our female plants, because ours are all female, and the female plant is the one that produces the product. If it's a male plant, you actually have to throw it away. You don't want to keep a male plant because it will produce seeds, and it basically can impregnate any plant in that room if you're not careful. So if you clip from a female plant, you're going to get a female plant in replacement, which is great. And once it roots, it then goes into these little pots. You'll notice all these different names. Cannatonic, the one in the middle here, happens to be a high CBD daytime plant. All marijuana plants have THC and CBD. Some of the newer versions are coming up with higher CBD plants. Some people are very compatible for it. Some people use it and they don't get any pain relief. So you just have to play around and see what's going to be right with you. On the left of this one is Comfort Zone. That is a nighttime high CBD plant. Top front right is Blue Mystic. That happens to be night. There are so many different names of plants that will make you dizzy. Don't get worried about all these different strains, because the bottom line is each person's body is different. Each person is going to get a different reaction to each plant. So you're going to have to play with trying samples and finding what seems to be compatible to you. So after we go into the small plant, we then start to go in the medium-sized pot, and you'll notice that I've started to kind of bonsai these plants out. So instead of one central plant that's going straight up to the light, we spread these out, and we're going to try for 4 different ones so each one will become a bud in the future. The yellow pieces of paper there you see are sticky, And what we have found with the organic soil that we bought, which is Roots Organic, sometimes we get these little flies in there, and this just catches those flies, so they're not all over the place. And here we have the larger stage. They're in the bigger, these are the final stage pots that these are in now. To the left, you'll see the edge of the little cloner that I run to take when I take snippings off of this to get the clones. And these are getting ready to be moving out of what's called the vegging stage. This is the stage where we're just beginning to grow them, and the lights are on for 18 hours and off for the rest. And it's not until we move them to the next room where the lights are on for 12 hours and off for 12 hours, on and off like that, that it forces it into a flowering stage. So now we're in what's called the flowering room. This is the room where the lights turn off after 12 hours. So there's 12 hours of darkness and then 12 hours of light. This turns the plant at whatever size that plant is when you put it in there. It grows a little bit higher and then starts to produce its bud. And the next picture is a close-up of one of the buds. If you look really closely, it looks like little almost like pieces of sugar on these leaves. And that's the THC and the CBD on the plant itself. If you look at the very top, you see a little white feathery thing. I'm sure I can't even think of the technical name right now, but this is the beginning stages of the bud. When the bud is actually ready to be harvested, those white pieces turn to amber and then close down onto the bud, and that's when you know you're getting closer to harvesting. Another way to grow along with inside is to create a greenhouse. We had a greenhouse attached to the house because we have so many patients where we can put 12 plants out into this room. If you'll notice, there's not glass on this. It's a thick plastic that you cannot see in, but it takes the light and infiltrates it evenly throughout the entire room. So this is a really great way to do it. If you were only growing for yourself, this nature is basically running this room, except you'll see the two fans by the door. The fans are to create circulation, and we also have a dehumidifier in this room. But otherwise, it's controlled by nature. So now, this is now October, because the days have gotten shorter, it's forced the plants into flowering, but at this time, the plants are about 3/4 of the way up the walls of this room. We have netting across the top, and the buds are inside the netting. So it's really a very nice way to do it. So if you're just growing for yourself, you could make a very small greenhouse like this and be able to take care of your plants. And this shows you the outside of it attached to the back of the house here. And for resources, my husband and I set up a website. If you look at the top, ellenandstuartsmith.squarespace.com. In the website, we constantly add to it. We have a section on all types of chronic pain, a section specifically dedicated to Ehlers-Danlos and research and information that's come through, including a list of doctors that we constantly add to. If you ever have a doctor that's successfully helping you with Ehlers-Danlos, even if they didn't know a thing about it in the beginning, but they've taken an interest to help you, please send me that information. I'll add it to the list, because one of the most humiliating things is to go to a doctor and be treated like you're fine and you look great, and you walk out of there thinking like you're nuts and you're not getting the help you really need. So that's there. And we also have a section on medical marijuana. Every time we get an article of good research coming in, we have now been able to separate it by categories of conditions. So feel free to use this and let other people have access to it too. I also put in a link here to find out where your state stands. If you're not in a state that's legal yet, you can click onto this link and check where your state does stand. The other thing you can do is just look up medical marijuana state of Georgia, and it usually brings you to your Department of Health, and it will tell you where you stand. And it also can tell you who's submitting the bill, who is the state legislator. So what can you do to help? You can offer your services to come and testify, tell your story, go meet with that person, share, what you've learned about your condition and the use of medical marijuana and why you should have a right to be able to use it as much as the child. Also, Pain News Network, this past year I've started writing articles about medical marijuana, and hopefully there'll be something there that might be helpful for you too. And I think that's the end of my my presentation here, so I'm going to go to your questions, and let's see. The first one says, which separate strains would you suggest to try for sleep and also for daytime energy for first-time medical cannabis users? And this is from Julie. And again, as I said from the beginning, each person's body is going to react differently. So if you're in a state that's legal and you're going to a dispensary, a compassion center, whatever they call it in your state, I would just share with those people who are incredibly knowledgeable what your symptoms are that you're concerned about, and just ask them for samples and go home with it. In fact, in our compassion center, they actually have a sample packet you can buy for $20. It has like a sample of candy. It has all different ways of presenting medical marijuana, so you can try it out and find out what might be more compatible for you. But I am not able to tell you what strain will be right for you. It just doesn't work that way. You're going to have to try it out for yourself. The only thing I can suggest is if you're making a nighttime oil, go for more than one strain and try to use the clippings, because that seems to be very beneficial for all the EDS patients we've dealt with in the state. The next one, it says, my adult daughter has EDS with daily nausea and vomiting, which is only relieved with marijuana. It is not legal in our state. Is the drug Marinol a legal option and is effective as marijuana? And this is from Linda. Linda, I used Marinol when I was in the NIH research on Ehlers-Danlos. I think that was back in, 1998. And they sent me home with a script for Marinol because at that point I was taking nothing. And to be honest with you, the first week I was so excited. I called Dr. McDonald and said, I can't believe this. I'm getting pain relief. This is wonderful. I'm eating again. And about a week later, that all just dissipated. Most of us find that it's not as effective as the real thing. It's synthetic. If it works for you, go for it. It's great. It's better than nothing. If you can get the real product, you're probably going to be better off. But that's just my personal experience. Okay, this one says, Magic Flight Box is my favorite vaporizer, and I love the Magical Butter Machine. This is from Danielle Davis. I don't know what the Magic Flight Box is, but we'll have to look that one up. For those of you that, I don't know if you can see these questions, I'll repeat it. It's called the Magic Flight, like an airplane flight box. So we'll have to look that one up. And the Magical Butter Machine she also has, which I love. It's a great invention. The next one is, what was the name of the vaping pen you used? I use Arazer Extreme Q at home, but it isn't portable. Okay, mine is called the PAX, P-A-X, PAX, and I absolutely love it. You can look it up online and see a picture of it. Next one says, I live in Washington State where recreational is legal. I have noticed that there seems to be a big difference in product between medical and recreational. Is it worth me getting a medical card? I'm not sure what you see in terms of a big difference in product between medical and recreational, but if you're seeing the difference, I'm assuming you're saying, this is from Brittany Rogers, I assume, Brittany, you're saying that, I'm hoping you're saying that the medical looks like a better deal, so if that's the case, then I would go get your medical card. And I think, at least for those of us in Rhode Island, we all try very hard to make an organic product. I'm not sure if they use the same criteria when it comes to recreational. So I would try to get as clean product as you can, and I think the difference also dealing with the medical aspect of it is you're going to get more help in terms of knowledge of the strains and what it might be able to do for you. So I would go for the card. Next, if you use medical marijuana and it is detectable in your blood, can you face legal problems? For example, if you're involved in an auto accident. This is from Linda. I don't know what state you're in. That is an issue for some people. I know in Colorado, a friend of mine, an old classmate from New Jersey, is a judge there and working on this legality right now. It is really depending on state to state. I would be very careful to read your state law, see what it says about driving, call the Department of Health if you're in a legal state, and find out where you stand. Because the bottom line is, if you use medical marijuana, it will be in your blood system for quite some time. It's not something that tomorrow it's all gone. It stays with you. So So you do want to check this out and just check your state law. I don't know what state you're from to be able to answer that any better. And it goes on, I'm sorry, there's more to this. It says, my family is supportive of me using medical marijuana for pain management for the most part. Due to my severe gastroparesis, I have found no relief from edibles and tinctures or oils, basically anything ingested. What will you suggest to try for administration methods that would work for someone who has severe gastroparesis? As I stated, I've been vaping, which have seen help from, but I live with my family. I am 22 and living in my grandmother's basement. It's far too cold to use my vaporizer outside, and I don't want the smell to be a bother to the rest of the people living there. Any suggestions on what to do with the odor of vaping? You know, that's interesting. This is from Brittany again. I have found that my PAX vaporizer really doesn't smell that much. My husband's kind of shocked if I'm in the car and I use the vaporizer. He doesn't tend to smell it for more than like a few seconds, and it just dissipates with the vapor. So maybe it's the vaporizer you're using. If you're not careful, some of the vaporizers, if you turn them up a little bit too high, actually don't vaporize, they start smoking it. So maybe that's what's happening. I also do have gastroparesis, and fortunately I've been very successful with taking the oil at night. And I hope, Brittany, if you've tried the oil, I hope you're taking it with some food. You don't want to just take the oil plain at night. You would want to mix it with some type of food, any more than you would suddenly sit down as a snack and have a teaspoon of oil. You wouldn't do that. You'd mix it with something. So that might be part of the problem with how you're taking it. Other suggestions, edibles, tinctures. I think the edibles are tough. Okay. Gotcha, Deanna. Thank you. I think, you know, the other thing you could try is the candy. If you're able to metabolize sugar, maybe that would be a safe way to do it, and it doesn't smell at all. The topical does not smell at all, so those might be other ways that you could think about trying to get the medication into you. Next one says, how do you determine that you have a female plant? What do you do with the male plants since they are not used? Okay, if you're starting with seeds, you don't know what you're going to be getting. And they do not present themselves as to what sex they are until they start to flower. So you have two choices. You wait until the plant starts to flower, and this is really going to sound terrible, but the male and female the males actually produce these look like two little balls. I hate to say it, and the female looks totally different. You will see the difference. And the male plants you want to pull out and get out of there as quickly as possible, because if you do not take them out, they will impregnate the females and create seeds for both the male and female plants, and you do not want those in there. You do not want the seeds. You'll notice with good quality medical marijuana that's out on the market today, you don't find the seeds that people used to find in recreation marijuana before. Today, that's just not in there. So you want to be very careful to get rid of those males. The way to prevent that from ever happening, find somebody who's already growing, ask for a clipping, bring the clipping home and root it, and then put that into the soil and grow that, and then you're guaranteed the female plant. The other thing you can do to try to sex them faster is if you have that, if you remember, think back on those pictures I showed you, take one of those small plants, force it into the room, put it into the room that has the lights on for 12 hours and off for 12 hours in the flowering room. That will force it into flowering fast. You'll get to determine whether those two little balls show up or if it's the female plant. And if it's a male, throw it away. If it's a female, you then put it back into the vegging room. It's going to slow down the process, so it's really easy to go get a clipping, but you can put it back into the vegging room. It's going to take a little bit for it to recover and go back into growing again, but that will be the other way you can do it. It then says, I have noticed that I have to use what seems to be a much larger amount of product to get the relief that many people get from a normal dose, or do not seem to get any relief from sativa plants, only very heavy indica plants. Can I have a high tolerance to the effects of medical marijuana, even though I just started using it a few weeks ago? And this is from Brittany. Brittany, everybody's body's different. There's going to be some people out there that aren't going to be able to metabolize it at all. As I said, I'm missing in one of the enzymes for it. Fortunately, I can still use it. But, you know, don't be discouraged. if you can only use indica, that's okay. That's what's right for you. It doesn't make it what's a normal dose. There's no normal to this. Everybody's norm is going to be different. So don't get discouraged. Find the indica plants that work. There was one woman that came to this house, took my nighttime oil home. I very carefully explained, now remember, this is for nighttime. This is an indica plant. It's going to make you want to go to sleep. Well, that person with Ehlers-Danlos uses the nighttime oil during the day and gets relief and stays awake. Now, I can't explain that. That's just how her body functions, and good for her. She found that it worked for her that way. If I had taken the night during the day, I'd be asleep in bed. So our bodies are just different, so you're just going to have to play with that. This one says Ohio has 2 issues on the ballot. The one basically is controversial, as many feel it's a monopoly. Only about 10 growers in the state for commercial growing and selling. Your thoughts, would you vote for it or not? If not, then there are basically no marijuana legal. There will be no marijuana legally available. And this is from Donna. 2 issues on the ballot. One is controversial. 10 growers in the state for it. So I guess what I don't know is, Donna, if this is for medical use only, or is this for legally for everybody? If it's not for medical, then I guess I would want to know why. I personally, it's for both medical and recreation. Okay, thank you. Wait a second here. Yes, okay. Okay, Deanna just clarified it is for both medical and, and only 10 people can be allowed to grow. There are many states, Donna, that are only allowing specific organizations to grow. I know in Rhode Island, they were way back in 2006 when they made us legal. And before the Compassion Centers opened, which was years, they allowed us as individuals to be able to grow until the centers opened. And then we have a choice of either going to the center to purchase or to continue to grow. I know Massachusetts set up where until the centers opened, everybody who became a patient was allowed to grow. But once the centers were opened, then it was only on very severe issues that people would be able to continue growing. So every state's setting it up differently. I don't know how well they're going to spread out these. If it says 10 growers, what I don't see here is how many sites will they have that you'll be able to go to purchase. If it's 10 and that's reasonably spread out and the prices are going to be reasonable, then that's okay. I would love to see that you would be allowed to vote to grow. I don't know if that's been in discussion in your state or not, but it certainly is a nice plus if you can get it. But I would say 10 is not sounding like a monopoly like some states that have 1 or 2. So I'd say you're probably doing better than some states, but certainly something to work with. And I would, if there's any way to try to encourage them to allow you to grow as a patient, I would see if there's a way you can get that included as a medical issue to be allowed to have the rights to grow. It says here, I grow in a legal state for myself. I know how to become a caregiver in my state, but how can I help other EDS patients with medical marijuana? And this is from Janice. Janice, I don't know what state you're in. I know how to become a caregiver in my state, and I would just, in our state of Rhode Island, we have an EDS Facebook page. Maybe what you could do is set up on a Facebook page that you yourself, if there's been somebody with Ehlers-Danlos, specifically on the EDS site on your page, maybe say that you have knowledge of how to help people with EDS with medical marijuana, and maybe they can privately message you that way. Would be maybe one way to do it. Another thing you could do is we have monthly meetings in Rhode Island during not in the summer, but the rest of the month, and we pull speakers in. Maybe you could have a session of talking about medical marijuana at a support group meeting and inviting people in. We've actually advertised in our state paper to let people know that we're having these meetings and who our speakers are going to be. Maybe something like that would be helpful. This one says, best way to start in GA, having EDS as an adult. Our state is not, I guess it's keeps, is this the same person? No, okay. Is this supposed to be in Georgia? Best way to start in Georgia, I guess, having EDS as an adult? I'm sorry, Deanna, do you know what this one is about, by any chance?
I don't, but I'm assuming that's probably Georgia.
Okay, best way to start in Georgia having EDS as an adult. I'm pretty sure I read that Georgia is working on possibly making this legal. I'm pretty sure children with seizures are possibly already approved. Again, you know, you've got to go onto the site, go to your Department of Health, or just Google Georgia and medical marijuana, read what it says, get the names of the state legislators, call their offices up, try to set up a meeting. If you can't physically go in, ask if you could have a conference call with them and talk to them and share about your condition and the difficulties of dealing with being drug reactive, and here's something that could turn your life around, and why do you not have that same right to be able to have this as something to be able to use. And you're certainly more than welcome to get hold of me if there's anything I can do to help you. I've written letters to various state legislators across the country trying to help other states, and I'm happy to help you. This one says our state is not legal. If we obtain product, it may be covered with pesticides, and we would also have no idea what it was, what strain, or if we could find out, wouldn't know which strain is the best to start with. And none of us know exactly which is the best strain to start with. If you're able to just put feelers out, sometimes you just never know. Marijuana has been around the country for years. This is not a brand new thing. It's existed. People, I mean, when we first started to become legal in our state of Rhode Island, it was really kind of funny. Here my husband and I were kind of like dealing with these young kids that were just into dealing with marijuana, you know, to learn so we could learn how to grow. It was kind of odd. Now we've kind of gotten past that, having to almost kind of not exactly turn to drug dealers, but close to that to kind of learn the whole process. But it's out there. I think getting product and finding, you know, some way to find it that, you know, talking to the right people and getting something that's safe, you know, there's a pretty good chance you're probably going to be able to find it in just about any state. I'd prefer that you were in a legal state and that you could do this correctly. That would be really nice, but sometimes we do what we have to do in life. I think the best thing would be to try to get your state legalized and work with your state legislators and try to move forward that way if you can. Says, how are employers' screenings being treated since it is illegal at the federal level? Can my employer fire me if I work and live in a legal state based on federal law? In Rhode Island, we cannot be fired in our job if we are a legal medical marijuana patient. That's why I encourage the other person from that other state, get your card, make yourself legal, and that gives you rights. Every state is different on how they're handling it. So, again, you need to read your state law and understand how they've set it up in your state. But in our state, there's been a few cases that are gone to court, and there was a young girl that was going to an internship. She had gotten it and then went back for the second final interview and was being offered the job and admitted that she was a medical marijuana patient, and it wasn't for EDS, it was for another condition. And they suddenly didn't have the internship for her. And that's going to court, and she's going to eventually win it because they had no right to do that to her. She was a legal patient. So it's really, although it is a federal issue, the federal government is pretty much letting it be based on a state issue. So you need to understand your state law, and you should hopefully be covered within your state law, and be very careful to read that if you become a patient, and so you understand what your rights are within your personal state. This says, will the recipes instructions be available somewhere so I can print them out? John and Deanna are going to keep this on the site, so this should be available for you. Deanna, are they able to? They are. They're able to copy and print this?
Just go to the same page that you went to for the announcement for Ellen's talk, and there'll be resources and links posted there.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. This one says, I have gastroparesis and other digestive mobility issues in addition to EDS and POTS. Do you know anything about the effect of medical marijuana on stomach and gut motility? I am concerned about marijuana helping with pain relief but making my GI problems worse. Katie, I have exactly those same issues. I have gastroparesis. I have POTS. I have a list like the rest of us a mile long, and it's certainly not made it worse. It's allowing me to get rest and sleep. It hasn't made my blood pressure drop too low because I use it at all. It's not a problem. And as far as gastroparesis, one thing I have found, it's a little bit off topic here, is I've actually had colonics done with a nurse practitioner that has been extremely safe and effective when my intestines totally shut down. And I've actually gotten to a manual therapist who works on the abdomen and helps release the, my mind's going blank, the adhesions, not the adhesions, the fascia gets very tight for gastroparesis, and she has been trained on how to release that. It's extremely effective. But I have not found that the marijuana has been a negative effect on my GI at all. It's done nothing but actually really helped me. It says it's not one of the 10 legal conditions. And it is not one of the 10 legal conditions. Deanna, do you know what we're talking about on this one?
I don't, but I imagine maybe they're talking about which chronic pain conditions are considered to be qualified for use.
And maybe in their specific state, I guess. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah. If that person has more, information, they can type it in the chat.
Okay. It says, can read after webinar, not a question, just a suggestion. Okay, so I guess I guess this is a suggestion. Okay, here's one. What are the thoughts about just taking only CBD oil? That is legal across the country because CBD oil is from a hemp plant. If it's all CBD, it's hemp, so anybody can purchase that, and that's totally legal. Is it going to be effective for pain? Maybe, maybe not. It can't hurt you. It can do nothing but help you. It's worth a try. Maybe in an illegal state, this is better than nothing. Go for it. You're not doing anything illegal. Whether it's going to be enough to help with your pain level, only you will be able to find out. And if not, then it will give you the incentive to work with your state to get your state legal. For topicals, does that ever show in the blood work? And the answer so far is no. Okay, so throughout your presentation, you mentioned to not use too much of the marijuana or you'll be stoned. What's going to prevent folks from going overboard and abusing marijuana? How does it affect you when you drive? I'm afraid that if marijuana is legalized in my state, that there'll be more people abusing it and going to stronger illicit drugs, not to mention create more traffic accidents. Poor job. Well, if that's the case, then Rhode Island doesn't fit in place because we've been legal since 2006, and we're not having more accidents because of medical marijuana. And it just, medical marijuana in your system doesn't make you want to get in a car and speed. If anything, it slows your system down. It calms your system down. Most people who are using it for medical reasons are very respectful about it. If somebody's getting stoned, either they're a patient misunderstanding how to take it, and very rarely do I see a patient getting stoned. It's more people who are using it for recreation that would use the word getting stoned. What I said, if you take too much, and I'm not trying to say that people do that, but if you take too much of anything, you can have a problem, whether it's an opiate, whether it's too much aspirin, whether it's too much anything. Same with marijuana. You don't want to overdo your dosage, but you don't walk around stoned at all. You don't get a high. You get pain relief if it's a body in pain. If you take it recreationally and you're not in pain, then yes, you will get high from it. But that's why it's two different scenarios, recreation versus medical, totally different reactions. And that's one of the first things we try to educate people about. When they hear you're on medical marijuana, automatically people say, oh, they must be stoned all the time. Well, no, you're not. That's not the case here. People driving, most people I know who are using it are not then popping in a car and driving around, or if they are, they're using it in a method that's not making them have any sensation. What it's really making you do is be more alert and more conscious, again, unless you take way too much of it, and which doesn't tend to be the case. As far as abusing and going to stronger illicit drugs, that's not the case with medical marijuana. If you do the research and read about it, they're using medical marijuana to get people off of opiates successfully. So it's really pretty amazing stuff. Kay, I hope I answered your question on that. It says, but right now there is no legal grows in Georgia, need access to product. I don't know what to tell you on that one. All of us at some point in our states have been at a time where we did not have it, and we had to make decisions. I mean, some people have moved to legal states. You're going to have to do what you have to do. I know Georgia is in the process of trying to legalize it, or I'm pretty sure children are allowed to be using it. So I would work with those state legislators and increase the number of people. Okay, it says here, sorry, I wasn't very clear. In Ohio, people will be able to grow their own marijuana with limits on amounts of plants. But if you want to purchase it, there will only be a limited amount of approved growing facilities. Well, that's fantastic then, Ohio, that you're going to be allowed to grow. That's outstanding, and I'm really happy for you guys, because if you are in a situation that you can grow, it's a much less expensive way to get it. Unfortunately, even still today in our state of we call them compassion centers, which are dispensaries in Rhode Island. We have 3 of them. We're a very small state, so 3 is very sufficient at this point. The only problem is the price is still way up there. And what happened was our governor was scared about opening the centers, delayed it for a couple more years, and the only way we could calm him down was to set the limit of plants that they were allowed to grow for the centers at 99, because they were finding across the country that people didn't get rated under 99 plants at the centers. Anything over that, the feds were coming in rating. So that calmed him down. They opened it up and told him they could only grow 99 plants, but in the process, it made the prices expensive because they had to depend on other growers to sell the medication to sell at the centers. September 1st of last year, that law got changed so that the centers can now grow as much as they need to for their patients. Unfortunately, the prices are still too high and need to come down. When they become self-sufficient, the prices should come down. That hopefully will be the case. But you know, if you're personally allowed to grow in the state of Ohio, then I wouldn't get hung up about how many centers are going to be open for other people. The fact that you can grow is golden, and you're really lucky because a lot of states do not have that. So congratulations. This is information. Illinois legislators do not follow board recommendations, and EDS is not on the list of qualifying conditions currently. Son of a gun, because that was going to be the first state that was going to qualify that, which was pretty amazing. They would take a condition that people still see as quote-unquote rare, even though we're really not, to actually be listed. So I'm sorry that didn't go through. That's really disappointing. But don't give up. We have been through year after year after year of legislation, and you just can't give up, and you got to go back and fight again and go back and testify again and send your letters in and letters to the editor and just keep it going, because at some point it will pass through. This one says, I know someone that would like to see if this helps him, but he's on Social Security disability and says he would lose his benefits. Even in states where this is legal, would that be the case? I certainly hope so. I hope not, because I know a lot of people in our state of Rhode Island that are in Social Security disability that are medical legal patients, and they have not lost their benefits. So I don't know what state that person's in and why they are concerned that may be an issue. If they're in a legal state, that they should not be losing their benefits from that. I don't even understand how Social Security would even know that they were using that. I'm not sure that's something that has to be identified to Social Security. This one says EDS is not one of the 10 conditions in Georgia. So then it goes on to say, I think it's the same person, my pain management doctor, I don't know. No, I don't know if it's the same person or not. I guess not. No, okay. And EDS is not one of the conditions in Rhode Island, but I've been a patient legally since 2007. And again, it goes back to that statement of a condition that causes pain, chronic pain. So you need to get that terminology that are in the slides here into your legislation. You don't have to worry about getting EDS defined. because if we define all those conditions out there and think of all the rare diseases out there that all deserve the right to pain relief, you go nuts with a list. So that's okay, but you want something in there that would include EDS symptoms. So chronic pain obviously would be one you want to get in there. Okay, this one says, my pain management doctor had all his patients sign contracts that state that we will not take marijuana while being treated by him. I currently take prescription meds for pain, but would be interested in trying medical marijuana if the issue passes on our ballot. It seems like a catch-20 situation. If I try medical marijuana, it could show up in the drug test the doctor gives occasionally. Then I could be fired as his patient, which maybe wouldn't be a big deal so long as the marijuana works. How would I handle this? But that's a tough one. And this is happening across the country right now with the opiate issue, too. People are going in, and if medical marijuana is showing up in their system, even in a legal state, doctors are then no longer willing to prescribe opiates. So that is a tough one, Donna. You have to make a choice. I would wait for your state to be legal. If it's not, I would hold off and not make the switch until you're sure that you could handle the switch. The other thing you might want to think about is finding a different doctor. I'm sure this person's very nice, but it seems like this person, these doctors are scared right now. They were originally told to prescribe opiates. It's a wonderful drug. If a patient needs more pain relief, give them a higher dose. Don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, the results start to come in. And we're seeing that, there's people that are having problems with addiction. The unfortunate part is it's only about 5% of the population that really gets that problem with addiction. Most of us don't. And they really need to screen out personality types before they do this to see who is the safe person to be holding on. But now, because of the opiate scare, doctors are very paranoid about prescribing. So this is not just your state, this is every state. And I get caught, we work for the U.S. Pain Foundation and constantly get emails of people just humiliated because they go to their doctor, they're doing blood tests, it's showing up that they've had marijuana, they're trying to help themselves with pain, and now the doctor says, I'm not going to prescribe opiates anymore for you. So it is unfortunately right now coming into making a decision of one or the other. It looks like doctors are not willing to play the game of both unless you can find a different doctor that would be willing to at least listen to you, allow you to try it, see if it does help you better than what you've been using, and then taking it from there. There might be a kind soul out there. I would ask around, talk to some other EDS patients out there, other people you know that have been to pain clinic doctors, and see if there's any person that might be a little more reasonable to talk to. But that's a tough situation. I'm sorry you have to go through that. And I think I've grabbed every question here. Deanna,
wonderful.
Did I get them all?
You made it through the list.
Yeah, I think we did.
Ellen, we are so appreciative of you, using what we call our spoons, your extra energy and pain that to help share this with everybody and tell them about your experiences and just give people another option to consider,
Yeah.
There's so few options for us when it comes to pain management, and like you said, with being reactive to so many drugs. So
absolutely,
it's just very good. It's good for people to be empowered with this information. So we really appreciate you sharing.
Well, my pleasure, and I hope at least one person gains something out of this and finds the relief that I've been able to find. And again, I was scared to death to try it, and I don't know what I was scared for. It was more society made me scared. There was nothing to be scared of, no anything. It just is gentle and very calming to the body and just gives you a chance to live your life. It doesn't get rid of EDS. We still have our problems. We still have to live with this and be careful with everything we do, but this takes that edge off and it gives you dignity of sleeping. And if you can get a good night's sleep, it's unbelievable how different the next day is going to be. Even if you wake up to a lousy day, at least you've had that rest. Most of us go into this having had very little sleep, and that is just devastating with the level of pain that we have to face. So I hope some of you will be in the position to be able to give this a try. I really do. Okay, I just found one more one here. It says, is there a list
sure.
of doctors in Rhode Island? And if you go to our website, this ellenstewartsmith.squarespace, and click onto Rhode Island, onto Ehlers-Danlos, at the very beginning, you'll see, I think it says something along the lines of doctors that care about us, or something along those lines. And you'll see it originally was just about Rhode Island. It's now a list of doctors. It's by the category of like cardiology, pulmonology, so on. And then as we grow with the list, you'll see it by states. Some states have a lot of doctors listed. Some have very few. Some have none. But you'll see Rhode Island in all of those. Rhode Island has actually been pretty amazing. Is it okay to keep talking, Diana, or do you need to stop?
Certainly. You have as much time as you'd like.
Okay. I just want to say that when we started, I got diagnosed back in, I got diagnosed at the age of 54, and I'm now 65, so it was 11 years ago. And when I got diagnosed, I went running back to my rheumatologist, all excited to say, guess what? I found out what's wrong with me, after 54 years, and was jolted when he looked at me and said, well, you're really better off going home to the computer and reading to get the help you need, because there's really very little I can do to help you. And I was shocked, and I thought, this is going to be my chance to have help, and instead I was being pushed back out the door. So it was just from that point on, my manual therapist had been working on me since 1998. Had no idea what was wrong with me, but stuck with me and was the only relief I was getting. And from that point on, my manual therapist had another new hire that he sent me to for my surgeries that helped to rehab me. He eventually broke away from my first therapist, which was Mike Healy. Kevin Muldowney was the one that was helping me in Mike's office at that time with all my rehabs, breaks away and starts his own business. Now Kevin Muldowney has now written the book on how to do physical therapy with EDS patients, so that all of us across the country will have the help that he's able to give us to Rhode Island, because you can't all come to Rhode Island. It's not going to work, because you're going to travel back and be back out of place, so you need help with a manual therapist in your state. But what I'm trying to get at, in time, we ended up with a cardiologist, Dr. Lervendaya, who's just moved out of the state, that was taking on every EDS patient and taking an interest. We had Dr. Chopra, our pain clinic doctor. We now have Dr. Patrick Klinga, a neurosurgeon who's taking an interest in us and wants to set up a kind of a hub at Rhode Island Hospital, so we have a whole clinic to come to. And this wasn't something that existed 11 years ago. This is something that happened by setting up awareness, by all of us with EDS in the state, going out, talking. We've spoken. I've spoken for the past 3 years to Brown medical students. I thought, why not go to the brand new people that are going to come out to help us? So we go to the second week of medical school. We go to those brand new students and do a talk about Ehlers-Danlos. We've been to the physical therapists, University of Connecticut, to URI. We set up awareness tables. We do everything we can to bring awareness into our state about Ehlers-Danlos. And it's unbelievable how we are moving forward, to the point that one person got hold of me out of California, went to the doctor with her diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos, and the doctor said to her, you'd be better off coming to Rhode Island to get the help you need, which is hysterical, because 11 years ago it didn't exist. We've created this through awareness in our state, and you all have that same power of get a support group going. If you don't like support groups, which I wasn't never really into, except we make ours positive. It's not to sit around and complain about our lives. It's to sit around and help each other how to move forward, how to help ourselves, and bring speakers in to help educate ourselves. And that's what needs to be done across this country. And in time, Ehlers-Danlos. In fact, I don't know if she's on the phone tonight, but the woman whose husband was a ninja warrior, I don't know how many of you saw that, gave us publicity about Ehlers-Danlos. She was there in her wheelchair. He talked about it. All these things help so much. So any way you can reach out and get the word out to the public, write a letter to the editor, whatever you can do, and make people aware. And I'm finding it's so receptive. If you don't make it sound like we're just complaining about ourselves, as much we're looking for answers. We want your help. We want you to believe in us, there's nothing more heartbreaking to see these children finally getting diagnosed at a young age. I shouldn't have been diagnosed at 54. We should have known at my birth what was wrong with me, and we didn't. But yet children, and we have to work in the hospitals, are being accused of conversion disorder, that they're making it up in their head. That's ridiculous. But yet it's still happening to me at 65 as an adult with the diagnosis. A doctor will look at me, not examine me, and tell me I look fine. And 3 days later, I almost lost my life on the PT table when my blood pressure could barely be heard and my heart rate was down to 40. So, we look so normal unless we have a brace on or we're sitting in our wheelchair or have our crutch or whatever the case is. Otherwise, people judge us by how we look. And heaven help us if we try to be brave and put a smile on our face. We really must be fine. But that's the life I choose to live. I want to be the positive person as much as I can, but we still have to get that education out there and not have people judge us that way. And it's a battle we all have to work on, and just talk. Let people know what this condition really is about, and try to turn your state around too, because it can happen. It's pretty amazing how rapidly it will happen too. Anyway,
Ellen, we are of like minds, and it does. It takes those of us who are invested in this because it's affecting our life so closely. To put the time and the effort into it. I know that's hard when you're struggling so much on a day-to-day basis, but Ellen's a great example that it really is worth it. And another just a tidbit about support groups, I agree with what she said. I mean, most of the support groups, we call ours a friendship group and, kind of informational exchange, resources and things.
I like that.
We don't sit around and complain or feel sad. People are just so encouraging. They leave the support groups just feeling energized and validated and equipped, to go and try new things and make their life better,
Right.
So that's really what it's all about. And if anybody wants to, talk about starting a support group or just finding, a small group of people to meet up with in person in your area, just send us a message at info@edsawareness.com and we can help guide you through that.
Sounds good. And thank you to you and John for all that you guys do. I mean, it's really incredible, with all the suffering. I hate to use the word suffering, but we do. We all suffer with this condition, Deanna. I saw you in that wheelchair and trying to get through the conference, and yet here you are doing this tonight, and I'm sure it's pushing yourself too, and that's what we all have to do for each other, is be there for each other. And, if anybody ever wants to be in touch, go to the website. There's a spot for contact. Happy to talk to you, happy to write back to you. Don't feel alone with Ehlers-Danlos. It's a very lonely condition, a very frightening condition, and we need to be there for each other. And, whatever form you do it, I like the friendship idea. That's a nice way to call it. It's just we need to help educate each other, and if you find something that's working, instead of keeping it to yourself, spread it. Tell people. Like gastroparesis and colonics. I actually had a doctor tell me I should never do colonics with Ehlers-Danlos. And I went home and remembered that in the end I have to make the decisions for myself. I'd already done colonics before I was even, I'd already been using it. It was working fine. It didn't perforate, and everything was fine. And that got me going again. So why would I not want to use it? So we can't always listen to, I hate to say this, it sounds terrible, but sometimes we have to hear a lot of different advice and then make a decision for ourselves and live with it,
And everybody is so different with their collection of symptoms or, what in particular, what area of their body maybe is more vulnerable and things like that. So you really need to, we need to make a decision for yourself. And as also just a note, as Ellen was saying, with the doctors and physical therapists in Rhode Island, they're just a fantastic, network that's developing there. And we do have November 3rd, Kevin Muldowney returning for a second time to give a webinar related to his new textbook on physical therapy. And then also Dr. Petra Klinga, who's a neurosurgeon, is going to talk about tethered cord on December 15 in a webinar. So mark your calendar for those.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. It's really good stuff. Dr. Klinga is wonderful, and And Kevin Maldowney, I mean, literally, I watched what he went through. This man who acts like he doesn't want to be emotional. He's so cute. He's a big guy, and he just, he just couldn't stand watching us suffer. He's not the kind of man that's going to say, oh, poor you, I'm really sorry. He's not that. He instead tries to empower you. He tries to get you to understand you're not sick. You have Ehlers-Danlos. What is it doing? It's subluxing your body. He teaches you on how to live in this body with this condition that's loose and how to live safely. And it's really helped me to change my mindset, because there's times we just feel like we're sick. We really do. And he's made me understand that a lot of it is more in my power than I realized. And, going to my dietitian and having that blood test and identifying those food items, I hate to say it, but it really made a big difference to stay away from some of those foods. And very recently I started to try some gluten-free bread again that had yeast in it, and yeast was on my list that I wasn't supposed to have. And son of a gun, I'm sitting here right now with my fibula subluxed again, and I know exactly why it is. It's because I had cheated and I thought it would be okay, and it wasn't. So, so I'm recognizing things I am doing that are making it a little harder on myself. And it's frustrating, and I would love to just be a free-for-all and spontaneous and do whatever I want to do and get hugged by people and not have my ribs pop. But you know what? It's not the life I am. And you've got to learn how to live with it as safely as you can. And it's hard. It's hard. This is not an easy journey for any of us. And I'm really sorry for all of you out there that are listening that you too have to be facing this. It breaks my heart every time I meet a new person with Ehlers-Danlos. And I wish I could take it away from you, but the best I can do is try to help share things, and I hope you will do it too, things that we have found that might help. It just might help the next person too, so just keep sharing. Okay?
Amen.
I just want to say, Deanna, one person asked what type of EDS I have, and I was diagnosed with classical. I am very fortunate that I do not have my hips subluxing, and I guess that's a real thing that Kevin's noticing with hypermobile is the hip subluxing. I have not had that happen, thank goodness. Everything else has fallen apart but that. But I've been diagnosed with classical. So
okay, and I'm hypermobile, so I do have fun hips.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
but yes, hoping to start Kevin's program and get that straightened out a little better.
Yeah, that'd be good. It's really worth it. Alrighty.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the night, and we want to thank all of our live attendees for their good questions, and wanted to remind you again, on October 20th, Dr. Murray is going to present genetic testing, so join us for that. And if you'd like to receive announcements for future webinars, go to our site at edsawareness.com and click on the free report button, which will sign you up for our email list. And again, to thank everyone.
Yeah, I wanted to thank everyone as well to attending our webinar tonight. And we are conducting these on the first and third Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. We may have some in between as well. So we actually have doctors booked up through February next year, so we're very excited that we're getting that kind of response from the doctors and the practitioners. So that's really exciting. I wanted to remind people that this program is totally free, the websites, the webinars, but we would appreciate if you look at Body Support Store. That is the funding for this program. You'll see over 250 products that are selected by EDSers for EDSers, and that's what funds this program. And then we don't ask for any donations. We don't ask for any funding. So check it out. And we, again, appreciate everyone that's attended. And Ellen, you did a fantastic job. Dee, you always fill in very well. So we're going to call it an evening and going to stop the recording. So everyone have a great evening, and we'll talk again.
You take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.